Borderlands 3. Is it worth a buy? Let's read the words of the developer. The original shooter-looter returns, packing bazillions of guns and a mayhem-fueled adventure. Blast through new worlds and enemies and save your home from the most ruthless cult leaders in the galaxy. Yes guys, Borderlands 3 is here, and before we get into it, this game has been tested on a 1080. Sorry, no it hasn't. What am I talking about? It's been tested on a 1070 and a 2080. Both of them were in DirectX 11. I didn't bother with the DirectX 12 because it had a warning that it wasn't optimized yet and it was still in beta. So I thought, why would I bother going into something like that that's only going to be disappointing? And from reading the forums, a lot of people are having issues with that, so I'm pleased I stayed away. But anyway, the game ran fine for me. It ran fine for my partner on the 1070. No real huge frame drops. I'm not having any of the big problems other people seem to be having. And I'm not saying that they're not having them problems. There's clearly issues with the optimization of this game that need fixing. I'm just thankful that I haven't had any. I've had one crash, no real frame drops to write home about or anything like that. It's been running pretty fine for me, to be honest. There are issues with Keybinds, which is just absolutely despicable for a AAA game like this on PC. I'm sick of having to say this when I'm reviewing games. It should be one of the first fucking things you do. We don't all use controllers and we don't all use fucking WASD. You can't rebind Y because Y is for fucking chat. Well, what if I don't want to use Y for chat? While we're talking about bad things, let's get into the story. Because what the story brings that's bad is characters, NPCs, who are just cringe-worthingly awful. I think the first hour of the game is so embarrassing if you're kind of a mature guy, and I'm very mature. It's kind of like the kind of game that you would play when there's no one in the house because you'd be embarrassed if your wife walked in and says, what are you doing? Why are you playing a kid's game? Because that's how it feels. Claptrap is just, I want to kill him. I want to just dismantle him. I literally want to dismantle him and give him to the rag and bone man when he comes round. It's all pop culture references with the most nauseatingly cringe-worthy people. And that was a shame because I know Borderlands has always been a bit like that, but Borderlands used to be funny. And I'm sorry, but Borderlands 3 is about as funny as a kick in the bollocks half the time. I have laughed at some things. There are some really funny things in this that I have laughed at, but it's just not as funny as Borderlands should be. Borderlands has always been funny, and this is just, it's gone from funny to cringe, and it's almost like trying to say, hey, we think that all gamers are the kind of gamers that go, hi there, Mac coming at you with the power of the internet, woo. You know, we aren't like that. It's only a tiny, small percent of gamers that are like that. The vast majority are bloody sensible people. We aren't that person, you know. F*** off. I think another weak area of this game is the enemies, the Calypso twins. They're just boring. They're not funny. They're cringy. And you just hear them all the time chattering over the radio with shit jokes and just crap, basically. Loot. There's far too much of it. You spend they say the game's 30 hours long. If you take away half the loot crates, it's probably only 20 hours long. That's how much loot's in this game. You spend more time looting crates, checking stats on fucking guns to see if this one has a microbe % more accuracy and DPS than that one, and then having to go back to your fucking spaceship, the Sanctuary, to sell it because there's no fucking vendors anywhere near you. You spend more time doing that than you do actually playing the fucking game. I know people are going to say, how can you possibly complain about loot in a looter shooter? But that's not how things work in real life. It's about limiting things. It's about having the right amount of loot. It's about balance. All games are about balance. You have to have the right amount, and I just think there's a loot overload completely in this. It just completely overwhelms you all the time, and you don't have enough bag slots. That's a big problem. You have to go and buy new bag slots, but they cost a lot of money, so you need more loot to to hoard so you can sell it, and it's just an endless cycle. You can't win. The loot will always win. The loot pawns everybody. The loot is the biggest, baddest boss in the game. It overwhelms you completely every time. And just when you go out there with an empty inventory and you've got all that huge amount of inventory space, loot will pawn you again. It's just overwhelming. Anyway, there's probably more bad things, but yes, the car play, the controls of the car are just... Why are we controlling the car with the mouse? Why are we steering a car? I put in the controls, steer left and right as keys. They don't work. You steer it with the frickin' mouse, and the car combat's rancid anyway. It really is. But let's get on to the good stuff. There are some funny things in the game, but not that many. But the characters that you get are really good. You've got Zane, who he can make clones of himself that also deal damage and distract. Our player's Moz, who has the big mech that you can just dive into for a limited amount of time, and you can really customize the shit out of that as well, which is really, really good. You couldn't do that kind of stuff in the other Borderlands. You couldn't, not the way you can do it in this one, and it's a really good addition to the game, and it's really badass as well, especially later on in the game. Then you've got the hunters, which have these pets, which I kept shooting when we were playing in co-op. We had two hunters, and they both had like pets, and I kept shooting them all the time. It was just damn confusing. And then you have the siren, who can... Is it a siren? I think it's a siren. She can like summon phantom hands to hold enemies in place or smack them around a bit. Really, really cool. All of them are really, really cool. And you can mega customize them as well, which is what I like. But the weapons, guys, the amount of weapons in this game is insane. There's different manufacturers of weapons, and each different manufacturer has a different kind of perk that each weapon does, which is a really cool thing. Some of them fire rockets, some of them have a shield. Some of the guns, when you actually empty your clip out of ammo, the gun leaps out and runs after people. It's just insane. There's all kinds of really good weapons, and do you know, at first when I started playing, I thought, this is bullshit. In fact, I even said it. This is bullshit, that they're just making weapons for the hell of it, and the weapons aren't enough different from each other. I don't believe that is the case now after playing the game for probably, I don't know, 15, 16 hours. The weapons do feel different, they sound different, and they are different, and I love the weapons in this game. I love getting new weapons. I'm still excited about picking up a new weapon, especially if it's a purple. I only use purple and blues now because you get that much of them. And when you find the right weapon for you, like I've got an SMG now, a purple epic SMG. I'm about 3 levels higher than it now, and I'm going to have to wave goodbye to it soon. But it is phenomenally good. It's a shredding machine. I love it. I absolutely love it, and I'm really gonna miss it when it just becomes not powerful enough as I'm getting up to harder and harder enemies. But that's how it is. You get really attached to the guns. You'll throw most of them away, but now and then you'll find, like I found a great shotgun as well, which I really loved, and that's now long gone, sold to the junk man. And you just look forward to the next one because you know that there's absolutely amazing weapons out there, and it's just about finding them. That's why you just keep looting everything. And there's also a spaceship, the Sanctuary spaceship, which allows you to go to other planets as well. You're not just on your home planet, which you were in Borderlands 2. You go to different planets, and they all look completely different as well. And that's a nice touch that the developers have. But what I was going to say is, on the Sanctuary spaceship that you can fast travel to, there's also a special vendor that sells epic weapons and things like that of your level. So there's a lot to do. There's a hell of a lot to do in this game, guys. There's a hell of a lot to do, and I am really enjoying the game now. The first few hours I wasn't, but I'm just kind of switching off the audio in my head of the voices. I'm just zoning them out of my head because they're just too cringy, and I'm just concentrating on a really good looter shooter with some really, really fun gunplay as well. Some of the boss fights is good. Most of them aren't, unfortunately. Some of them are tough though. Some of them are really tough. But you have some really epic fights, some really good fights with about 8 or 9 different mobs. Really tough mobs as well, with shields and different abilities. There's quite a big variety of enemies that I've come across in this. And at the end of the day, it's all about the fun. And I'm having fun with it. I'm really having fun with it. It's one of the games that I'm going to pick up and play. I can play co-op as well, single player. Either is good. There's different character classes as well to choose from, so you've got absolutely shit tons of content. Even when the game's finished, there's another 2 modes that you can unlock when you actually finish the game to give you even more gear. It's just all about the gear, it's all about the weapons, and I'm really enjoying it, so I'm going to give this a thumb up. It's not a cheap game, it's a AAA game, it's £50 here in the UK. You can get 10% off on Green Man Gaming, and then you're not giving Epic all the money, so that might help with some of you to actually get it. You can click the link in the description just below this video. That'll take you to Green Man Gaming and give me a tiny commission as well if you do buy from there. But if you don't want to do that, go and buy it from the Epic Store. And if you don't want to buy it from the Epic Store because you just don't want to buy it, then don't buy it. That's entirely your prerogative. But there you go, guys. It is a good game. It's a fun game. It has its flaws. It's not a 9 out of 10 like some people are saying it is. I'd probably give this a 7.5 to an 8, but it's definitely worth a buy.